The silence that followed the battle was unlike any I had known. No static, no mechanical hum, no echo of the Emperor's hymn across the Vox. Only the drifting of wreckage through the void, the slow hiss of cooling metal and the faint rhythm of my own pulse. The Virili floated amid a graveyard of light, our augur arrays fried, our comms dead. Outside the nebula had dimmed to a dull, bruised red, like the afterglow of a dying heart. Calix lay unconscious in the med bay, his augmetics flickering with residual charge. Leora moved silently through the corridors, cataloging damage and counting the living. I stood on the command deck, staring out at the fractured horizon and tried to understand what I had done. The Inquisitorial fleet was gone, destroyed or dispersed. Whatever power the chorus had released had frozen their ships, then sent them adrift through the warp's edge. Their last transmission had been a single phrase: Arch-Heretic Singularity confirmed. Terminate contact. I wondered if the Inquisition truly understood what they had witnessed, or if they would simply erase it from their records, as they always did. The Imperium had no place for ambiguity. It either worshipped or destroyed. The nebula began to thin, revealing a distant star beyond. A pale, trembling sun that I did not recognize. I realized with a cold weight in my stomach that we had been moved, translated across an unmeasurable distance. The stars outside the viewport were unfamiliar, their constellations broken. Whatever the chorus had done, it had not merely silenced our pursuers. It had displaced us. I felt the emptiness closing in, the kind that even a rogue traitor fears. We had no bearings, no route back to charted space. We were alone at the edge of something vast and nameless. Yet beneath the fear there was a strange calm, a sense that this was not exile but invitation. You opened the gate, the voice murmured faintly within my mind. Now you must decide what to let through. I closed my eyes. The echo of that ancient harmony lingered still, faint but persistent like a pulse beneath my thoughts. It was not malevolent. It did not command. It simply waited. Leora entered quietly, her boots ringing against the metal floor. She carried a data slate, its display cracked but still functional. We have power in the primary drives, but the warp engines are offline. Calix says the Geller field is unstable. Then we don't move, I said. Captain, we can't just drift. The crew's scared. They need to know what happens next. I looked at her, really looked, and saw what she was hiding. Exhaustion, yes, but also faith. Somehow, after all that had happened, she still believed in me. Maybe she shouldn't have. What happens next, I said slowly, depends on whether we're still the same people who left the Imperium behind. She frowned. Meaning? The chorus showed me something. A reflection of what we are, what we could become. If it's truly gone, then we have a choice. We can return, lie about what happened, beg for absolution. I let the words fade. Or we can go forward. Leora's eyes widened. Forward, you mean follow it? I don't know what I mean. Only that the Emperor's light doesn't reach this far. Maybe that's why I'm still alive. We stood there for a long moment, the nebula's glow washing over the bridge. I thought of Adrastia's sermons, of my house's endless debts to Terra, of the Inquisitor's threat. I thought of the sound of the chorus, the way it had made even horror seem like beauty. When I spoke again, my voice was barely a whisper. What if it wasn't heresy? What if it was remembrance? Leora said nothing. She simply turned and left, leaving me alone with the question. I walked to the viewport and pressed my hand against the glass. The star beyond flickered like a candle in deep water, and somewhere in that darkness I thought I heard it again, the faintest trace of music drifting between worlds. We are not gone, only waiting. The lights dimmed. The Virili drifted onward into the unknown, carrying its haunted captain and her silent crew through the forgotten edges of the galaxy, where maps ended and faith began to break. But deep in my chest something else had awakened. A hunger not for conquest or coin, but for understanding. For the truth that the Imperium had buried beneath millennia of fear. And as the nebula's last light faded behind us, I knew that even if I died out here, even if no one ever learned my name, the chorus would remember. The stars have long memories, and some songs are never truly silenced. The final days aboard the Virili unfolded in quiet rhythm, as if the ship itself had grown tired of violence. The decks were still scorched, the air recycled thin and dry, yet the silence no longer felt suffocating. It was the silence of aftermath, the stillness that comes when a storm has passed and the world hesitates before drawing breath again. We had lost almost half the crew, some to the battle, others to the strange resonance that had passed through the ship when the chorus awakened. Those who remained spoke little. They went about repairs with the hollow focus of pilgrims who no longer remember the God they served. Calix awoke 3 days later, his voice crackling with static. "Captain," he said, "there's movement in the lower decks." "Mutiny?" I asked. He shook his head. "No, the machine spirits. They're singing." It was true. From the bowels of the ship rose a faint hum, a pattern of tones barely audible to the human ear. It pulsed through the bulkheads, gentle but insistent. The same melody I had heard within the chorus's heart, slower now, fragmented as though remembering itself. I walked alone through the silent corridors, following the sound. The walls seemed to breathe, faint motes of light sliding across the metal. When I reached the engineering bay, I found the servitors motionless, their optics glowing faint gold. In their midst hovered a single data sphere, spinning slowly in the air, projecting lines of code and symbols too old to read. I approached and the humming deepened. The symbols folded themselves into words. My name, my lineage, the sigil of House Virili. The line remembers. My breath caught. "What are you?" The last echo of what was forbidden. The archive between flesh and void. "You survived the purge," I whispered. "Survival is not our purpose, memory is." I realized then that the chorus had left something behind, not its full power, not its voice, but a seed. A memory encoded within the Virili systems, carried through the warp like a whisper. "Why me?" I asked quietly. "Because you listened." Outside the viewport, the nebula had dissolved entirely. Before us lay open void, unmapped, unclaimed, endless. I could see faint points of light far away, like the first embers of creation. Leora joined me, silent for a while before saying, "The crew wants to know our heading." I told them, "You decide. Do they still trust me?" "They don't know what to trust. But they'll follow." I nodded. The hum of the ship deepened again, as if answering her words. I opened the ship's log and began to record, my voice low and steady. "This is Captain Celine Virili of the Warrant Ecliptica's Grace, commanding the independent trader Virili. Our location is unknown. Our purpose uncertain. We encountered something in the nebula of Varos 9, something ancient, intelligent, forbidden. It called itself the Chorus, though that is only the name my mind gave it. It is not warp, not machine, not life as we know it. It remembers when all three were one." I paused, glancing at the dim lights above. "The Imperium will deny this. The Inquisition will burn any record of it. But if this log survives, let it be known. We found beauty in the silence. We found hope beyond the Emperor's reach. And maybe, just maybe, that means humanity still has something left to learn." I ended the recording, sealed the file, and ordered Calix to transmit it across every open frequency before wiping the system. The message would scatter across the stars like ash in solar wind, maybe reaching no one, or maybe finding someone desperate enough to believe. The hum deepened once more, resonating through every deck. Leora looked at me with something between fear and faith. "Where now?" "Forward," I said again. always forward. She smiled faintly, and for the first time since the nebula, the bridge lights brightened as though approving. As the Virili turned toward the uncharted void, the song rose behind us, faint but eternal, threading through the hull like heartbeat and memory. The crew listened in silence. Some wept, some prayed. I closed my eyes and thought of Terra, of the throne, of the unending golden light that bound humanity in chains of worship and fear. Then I thought of the chorus, of the harmony that had shown me a different kind of divinity, one born not of control, but of connection. We are not gone, only waiting. The stars blurred as the engines ignited, carrying us into the deep where names fade and light itself forgets. Perhaps we would die there. Perhaps we would find what the Imperium buried. But as the ship vanished into the unknown, one truth remained. The silence was no longer empty. It was full of promise, and somewhere beyond the reach of any astronomicon, a new song began.